What is up, YouTube? This is Alex Rose back at you again with another tutorial. This time we're going to be looking at how to make build-ups in EDM songs. Now this applies to pretty much any genre you want, and I'll explain kind of the different approaches you might want to take depending on the genre you're in. For instance, house, like the deeper kind of stuff, the not so much the bass house, but deep house and future house and G house and stuff, you might want less of a build-up. But in genres like future bounce and electro, big room, those kind of things, you'll want longer, bigger, fuller build-ups. So today we're going to be using Martin Garrix style electro festival house tracks as an example, and mostly in the spirit of kind of KSHMR, Tiesto, that kind of main stage sound. And we'll be building our build-up around that. So some things you'll need before we start is, if you have a KSHMR pack, that's super useful since it's in the right genre. But really, you just want any kind of build-ups or any kind of build-up drums, and risers are really important. And you can get lots of those for free if you look online. Cymatics also offers a bunch of like freebies if you buy just one pack from them or anything like that, so you can pick up a lot there. But yeah, the internet's your friend on that one. Risers and build up drums, especially if you're not comfortable making them yourself, because it can be a little time consuming and it's not really necessarily the fun part of making tracks like this. So some of my tracks I make the build ups myself, as well as fills. You also want fills if you can't make them yourselves. I'm terrible at percussion. So I'm trying to get better at it, but get lots of samples and makes it a lot easier. So let's say you've got a nice break and drop, and you're just looking for a way to connect it. Here's the break I can. And then here's the drop. So nothing out of this world. I just made it for this tutorial, kind of a KSHMR inspired. I think the lead sound I'm using in this is even called KSHMR Secrets Lead or something like that, that I got off of some other tutorial. So anyways, we'll get into it. So one of the things I want to focus on is how to transition from your break into your build up and then into your drop. So the way you're going to do this is using effects. Personally, I have a couple favorites. I use this snare, or this cymbal transition I should say, which is really good, and we're just going to quickly put that through the mixer. I'm just going to turn the level down a bunch so that it's not super obvious, because they make the samples really loud. Oh, another one I like to use as well is this impact. So this will just make it really easy to transition from section to section, and we'll put that on the same mixer just because we're not being super detailed. And so the first thing we're going to do is figure out the percussion. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can use your own snare and then do a very simple pattern, which will look like this. Let's just find a snare real quick. So we'll use this guy, and all we're going to do is every time you hit kind of the halfway point, so this build-up is 8 measures long. After 4 measures, we're going to double the speed of the snare being hit. So it sounds very dry still, and for this example, I'm actually going to use a fill from KSHMR because he's got a really good one in here, just to make the example using a better sample than the percussion I can make. So we're going to use this one, and it's already at 128, but I'm just going to click it regardless, and then we're going to cut off this last bar. these pre-made samples already have some filtering automation and stuff like that going on with them, but we're also going to do some of it ourselves just to kind of make it our own, so it doesn't sound like it was directly lifted from the pack. So the first thing we're going to do is just select full 8 bars, including where the sample isn't. Go into our mixer, and we're actually going to do this weird thing that will make more sense later. But we're going to bus a reverb and filter automation between both the leads as well as the percussion. But we'll get, like I said, we'll get more into that later. And then we'll route, like I said, that sample into that automation bus. So the first thing that we'll throw on here is an EQ. We have a high pass going on with a steep 8 and low pass going on with a steep 8 as well. Making these filters as steep as possible would be beneficial so that they're not actually interfering with the sound in general. Any other filter plugins would be useful for this, but this is just how we'll do it. And then since we've already got the area selected, when we right click and go create automation clip for the filter parameters, they should only exist for those 8 bars instead of for the entire song. So we'll just throw those up here. And let's zoom in on the region that we're working with. There we go. So the first thing that we want for it to start off like it's being low passed. So that should be by doing this. And it should be almost at, fully open in terms of the filter by the end of maybe the halfway. And then the next one we're going to do is start high passing it while that low pass is opening it up. So it's simultaneously doing both. Be careful with the high pass. You don't need to do very much as it can be pretty... Okay, great. So next, we're going to do reverb automation on it as well. So we're just going to throw a reverb before the filter, and we're just going to turn the wet all the way down. And we're going to automate both the wet and the dry signal. So the wet signal, we're going to throw pretty much the entire way up and then drop it smoothly afterwards and have that be curved so it's not coming on too drastically. And then the dry signal we want to decrease, not entirely, but quite a lot. And then we'll copy that over and paste it over there. So that's a little bit too much, so we'll turn this down and we'll turn this down. And I think I'm also just going to compress this drum as well because it's pretty uncompressed. So it adds just a different feel to it because as it's being high passed and reverb is going up, it's starting to kind of really lower the perceived loudness of the track right before the drop, which will make it hit harder. So next thing we're going to do is just include this drop melody in here, and this will make a huge difference. So we're also going to start routing the lead bus into that automation bus that we had earlier. Which is then routed to the master. That way the same automation that's going on to that percussion is also going on to the lead that we have. So let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, and then one other change that we can make to the lead pattern is just copy it again. We can do a couple different things. So we can get rid of all the layers that are going with it so that it's just the primary lead. So in this case, it's the top one. that's the main lead. And then what we're also going to do is just make it repeat once it gets to the halfway point. So it'll go. Or we could just make it hit one note. So let's just pick a bunch of times. And another trick that we can throw in is for both the percussion and for the lead, is we can go into the leads patch and put the pitch bend up to 12. And if you just touch it once and then highlight the area that you want to mess with, go to Tools, Last Tweak, Create Automation Clip. It's now making an automation clip based off of that pitch bend that we adjusted. So we'll go into here, paste the value back down. And then the other thing we're going to do is for the end of pattern 3, we're just going to copy the end of the melody, the last bar here, I should say. Okay, so now the synth will pitch up like that, and we can also do the same thing to the actual drum sample if we want as well. I'll show you what that sounds like. If we go to it, it's this long fill. We're going to make sure the mode is on stretch so that it stays the same length, or else the sample will start getting smaller as you automate this, and then automate the pitch. Create automation clip, throw it up like that. So it kind of has that Madison Mars type feel here, where it starts saying, or Brooks, he does that a lot. And here we're going to get rid of the end, this last bar as well. And then what we can do is we can throw in a different fill optimally, but we can just do the second half of this fill, and then we'll listen to what this sounds like. The last thing I'm going to show you is if you also happen to have a vocal. Having a vocal, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it as well. So let's say the drop actually sounds like this. We can actually use that to our advantage as well. And it's going to be a similar philosophy to what I was saying in the beginning. So you're going to have the full thing play out twice, and then we're going to go down to just halves, and then finally into quarters, and then we'll have, let's say, the end play. So it sounds like this. And then similarly, we'll do the same tricks that we've been doing with the other guys. So we'll route this vocal into that automation bus like we've been doing with the other stuff, and then we'll also do the trick with its pitch. So just right click, automation clip, all the way up, and then back down for the fill. And we'll only start it at the halfway point. It usually sounds better for vocals to only start doing automation in the second half. One more thing I wanted to add. So there's kind of already a riser in this drum fill, but it's not bad to put in another one. I'd recommend doing it as the last thing. Try to make the build up as full as possible before putting a riser in. Let's see it. So this is going to be the full break into a build up into a drop. right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe for future videos like such. Comment below what you would like to see, what you're struggling with in production. Like the video because it helps me a lot if you do. And until next time, happy dancing.